Well, good afternoon, everyone. Uh, I will be briefly speaking about SFA interventions, how to approach them, and what we do now. The only disclosure I have to make is I'm a surgeon. And if you find me biased, that may be the reason. SFA is a long dynamic vessel, undergoes torsion, compression, extension, and flexion. And it is for this reason that we still continue to face problems while performing interventions in this artery. It is susceptible to atherosclerosis due to low shear stress, high incidence of calcified plaques and medial calcification, unlike most other peripheral arteries, and unsatisfactory outcomes with angioplasty, and there is a high incidence of stent fractures that has led to constant innovations in treating this enigmatic artery. When I reviewed the literature, there were certain drawbacks. A lot of interventional studies have been done on claudicants. And in my practice, most claudicants are put on medical management. We don't intervene. A disease in critical limb ischemia where we do tend to intervene, it tends to be more severe, tends to be multisegmental with a poorer runoff. The lesions tend to be occlusive and much longer than compared to the ones which are shown in studies. The treatment options available: medical management with exercise, endovascular, which can be the form of transluminal or subintimal angioplasty, stenting, drug-eluting stents, drug-coated balloons, cryoplasty, excimer laser, covered stents, and then of course surgery with vein graft or synthetic graft. For a typical claudicant who can walk even up to 100 meters, I would look at risk factor modification, silestazole, and graded exercise. And majority of the patients do extremely well on this regimen. And the other advantage with this is that once they start exercising, it also sort of lowers their cardiovascular risk. Long occlusive lesions more than 15 centimeters, surgery with a vein graft is perhaps the best option. When it comes to interventions, we look at lesions less than 15, and lesions less than, this should be 5 centimeters, and lesions more than 15 centimeters with no suitable vein graft. Now, short lesions which are less than 5, let's say for example this lesion which this lesion in the SFA, it can be easily treated by just plain balloon angioplasty. While the result doesn't look very pretty, it lasts for a reasonable length of time. Lesions which are 5 to 15 centimeters, you could look at subintimal angioplasty, which would have a 1-year patency of maybe 50% or a little more. Limb salvage rates are definitely much higher. We could look at angioplasty with stenting. Nitinol stents definitely score over stainless steel stents, and this has been shown with LifeStent, Absolute, and Silver stents. Drug-eluting stents, they do not seem to offer any major advantage over nitinol stents. Covered stents, again, do not appear to offer any additional advantage. On the contrary, they cover branches and collaterals and may worsen outcomes in case of stent occlusions. This, however, is yet to be proven. Heparin-bonded stent grafts, there was a study published, I think, sometime this year. They seem to hold some promise over the regular stents. Now, when it comes to vascular interventions, restenosis is the Achilles heel of interventions in the SFA. When we do angioplasty or stenting, we cause injury, and vascular injury leads to restenosis. And it's a very small time frame over which these patients come back with restenosis in the SFA. It's probably less than 6 months. The solution for this seems to be in the use of drug-coated balloons. They appear to offer benefit over a plain balloon angioplasty and even over bare metal stents. Paclitaxel-coated balloons have been used. Paclitaxel inhibits extracellular matrix secretion and breakdown, and selectively inhibits the vascular smooth muscle cells and not the endothelial cells. However, a drawback with all the studies, they have studied only short lesions. So how we use these drug-coated balloons? We should predilate the lesion with a smaller balloon, use long sheath or a guiding catheter so that we don't lose the drug while advancing this drug-coated balloon. It can be used only once. we cannot afford to miss the target. So if you inflate the balloon at the wrong place, the drug would get applied there and the balloon would go waste. For calcified lesions, again, drug-coated balloon itself is not a great option. You could consider debulking with a directional atherectomy, for example, Silverhawk, followed by use of drug-coated balloon angioplasty. This is how it would be. So you first inflate with a plain balloon. This is what it would look like, and then inflate with a drug-coated balloon. Another problem that we continue to face in SFA are restenosis, especially in-stent restenosis. What are the options if we face this? First of all, assess if re-intervention is required. If the patient had an all-healing ulcer when the intervention was first done, the ulcer has healed and patient has claudication and is able to walk reasonably well, we could just continue with medical management. If intervention is required, we could line it with a covered stent. We could do an angioplasty with a drug-coated balloon. We could line it with a drug-coated stent, or finally, even a surgical bypass could be done. To summarize, SFA lesions remain a challenge for endovascular therapy. Short lesions, angioplasty is good. Longer lesions, we could look at nitinol stents or subintimal angioplasty, or even heparin-bonded stent grafts. Very long lesions, surgery is perhaps the best option even now. Restenosis remains actually sealed, and use of drug-coated balloons may provide better outcomes, but these are yet to be seen with longer lesions. And as a surgeon, I can't resist showing this slide. You have a long stent with a long in-stent stenosis, good runoff, and on the other side you have a femoropopliteal bypass using long saphenous vein. Extremely poor distal runoff. You can see the above knee popliteal is almost closed, but the graph continues to run. Thank you very much for your attention.